And no sound.
Well, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. Today is the most wonderful day of the week. This is the day that we, the women, are in charge. It sounds weird to say that out loud, considering as how this is my show and I should be in charge of it every day of the week. But we have these two guys who like to just butt in and take over like it's their show. So on Wednesdays, we have dubbed this Women of on Wednesday on Texas Fully Loaded, and we have the most amazing women panel with us today. We have Miss Patty Tibbs, the principal of Texas Fully Loaded, the one who keeps us in line. And we have Miss Rachel Heisler from Chambers County, and I am from an undisclosed location, not doing what you think I'm doing. This is a mirage. This is a video. Just pretend. How are you, ladies?
Doing great down here, sunny and warm.
Miss Pat is on Tibbs Island. This is a very momentous occasion. We are in a tropical location. I feel pretty excited about it. It does not feel very tropical here in Texas right this moment. Rachel, how are you?
No, not at all. It's pretty cold. I'm even wearing a sweater.
At one point in my not drive, because I'm not driving, it got down to 33 for about
Whoa.
20 minutes. Yeah, no, I was like, what in the banana peels just happened here? Now it's back up to mid 40s, but still, that's ridiculous. This is Texas. What's happening? Speaking of this is Texas, ladies, do you know what today is?
Is this a test?
What is it?
It is a test. This is a Texas test.
Oh,
This is a Texas test.
Dennis, what's the answer? Oh,
I'll give you a hint. Today is January 25th.
yeah.
Today is January 25th. Today is the Lone Star Flag's birthday.
That's right. Founded in Montgomery County.
It was in fact founded. That is the tale that has been told. Montgomery County, Texas, in Montgomery, Texas, Montgomery County, Montgomery County, Texas. There we go. Because there's a city in Montgomery County called Montgomery, and that's where it happened. That's a lot. We're proud of our flag here in Texas,
And
as we should be. Rachel?
There's a beautiful display in the history of those flags in Montgomery County. I visited it with my son, and it's awesome. It gives the history and goes through the progression of the flags that the state of Texas has used over the years. Well, starting the Republic of Texas and graduating to join the Union, regrettably.
We lost Sandra. Rachel, you're in charge.
She'll come back. So what is the name of that park, Miss Patty, where all those flags are on display? And it's also a veterans memorial, correct?
Is it called Veterans Park now? I thought they changed
that may be right.
Park. And then there is a historic Montgomery County park not far from there. And I forget what the name of it is. Your mind goes blurry when you're on the island.
Too many umbrella drinks.
Yeah. I think Sandra must be in a long tunnel, or else they've stopped her on the side of the road.
Could be.
She wasn't on the road.
Right, that's a mirage.
That was a mirage.
Yeah, she's really in an office somewhere.
It's a good camera tech.
Well, unfortunately, that I guess she must be having signal problems, so it's on us now. What do you want to talk about, Miss Patty? Tell us what's been
Gee.
going on in your world.
Well, when you're when you're out of the country, it's really hard to get local news, except for Texas Fully Loaded, and what you see on the internet, which you can't necessarily believe. I know that things are ever changing in Montgomery County. I wish John could only tell what he can tell, and I can't tell the rest either. So, but man, there's a lot going on. Oh my gosh, he needs a wig so he can fit in.
I have my Ulta bag, my Ulta products.
Oh, good. You shop at Ulta?
Actually, so I'm going to be your trans Texas. How's that sound?
Not allowed.
No.
I know. Trust me, I only go one way. Sorry, folks.
There she is.
There she. Well, hey, I'm going to mute her mic. You like that one? No, I figured I'd jump in here. And good Lord, Sandra, where you been?
Dude, I don't know if my phone got too hot. I don't know what the heck fires happened, but I don't know.
So it was 32 degrees, but then the phone on the dashboard gets too hot in the freezing weather, and you're wearing a turtleneck. So now, Miss Patty, thank you. We saw you in the hot tub earlier out there drinking the umbrella drinks with Dennis out on the beach.
Yeah.
Walter is the worst secret keeper ever.
Well, she's the one who answered her phone with FaceTime, so that was her problem.
So what did I miss?
Well, somebody jumped on and said you were in handcuffs on the side of the road. So anyway.
I thought she went through a huge tunnel and didn't come out the other side, like in the James Bond movies.
Uh-huh.
That would be very interesting, considering this drive has 0 tunnel.
Well, it depends. There is I
make my own road.
There is the uranium mine that's down there close to Victoria.
You caught me when I come out with 3 eyes.
Well, the tunnel's called the Tunnel of Uranus, so it has nothing to do with uranium.
Oh God, I didn't make it any better either.
Exactly. Anyway, so hey, ladies, I'm only going to be in for a little bit. I just figured I would invade your day. But what, Miss Sandra, what has been happening in the world of women in Texas besides the celebration of the birth of the Lone Star flag?
So now I have a question for you native Texas women. Was the Lone Star flag in fact made by a woman, much like the United States flag was made by a woman? And if so, what woman made it? Real question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
And Sandra will have that answer next Wednesday.
I guess I'm gonna have to.
I don't know the answer to that one either.
The crickets are astounding.
Sandra will have that answer with Kyle Rittenhouse tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Why is every time I leave Texas, something great comes on? It comes to Montgomery County or comes.
Well,
I know the feeling.
It was a fight over beer, Miss Patty. Beer and free speech of all things.
Yeah. What a shame.
So, and of course our favorite grocery store, H-E-B. Do they have H-E-Bs in Cancun yet?
There are no H-E-Bs over here that I know of.
Very unfortunate. They do have H-E-Bs in Mexico, though, interestingly enough.
I wouldn't shop at them anyway.
Quite populously. What?
I wonder if they know it was named after a guy Who had hairy butts?
Herberty butt.
Yeah, they sure do.
So we don't necessarily know that his butt was hairy. It's kind of creepy when you start thinking about it. I don't want to think about it. Make it stop.
Maybe
Every
we'll-
time, every time he signed any document, he said, "I'm a hairy butts."
We don't have proof of that.
and we
Yeah.
digress.
So yeah. So as you guys know, one of my big reasons for wanting to do the Women on Wednesday is because I think that what happens is that we kind of forget that, you know, we watch other women doing this kind of activism work or work or whatever, and sometimes we forget that, hey, we actually have a little bit of that fierce sisterhood inside of us, but we forget about it. I know when I first started running for office, a lot of women specifically would come up to me and tell me, "Oh my gosh, you're inspiring me. You're reminding me that there was a me before children, or before a husband, or before this happened, or before that happened." And you know, I forgot that I too had a voice. And you know, I think that a lot of times, us, especially moms, we kind of get busy doing all of the things that either we forget that we have a voice, and so we just feel like it's getting lost in the crowd of dishes and laundry and do your homework and quit hitting your sister and all of that kind of stuff, that we forget that not only do we have a voice, but more importantly, we are so influential in our circle, whatever that circle may look like, whether it's a mom circle, whether it's a work circle, whatever it might be. We have a voice and we have influence, and the influence should not be used sourly. It should be used to empower. It should be used to help edify and as the saying goes, straighten other women's crowns. And I think that that's important. I think that there's such there's such a pandemic, if you will, of women who've lost hope. And as silly as it sounds, even in this age of women empowerment, there's still so many other voices of traditionalism, even for those of us who truly do believe in a sense of traditionalism, that still say, "Oh, you should just, you know, go and make a sandwich and let us men do the men work here," even though they don't have a clue what the hell they're doing. So I'm excited because as iron sharpens iron, so do diamonds sparkle better when there's more of them around. So I like to have these amazing women on. I want them to be able to shine and talk about the things that are important to them and what they're doing either in their community, what they want to see done in their community, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that we see a lot of is that especially, I want to talk a little bit about some of these school board fights and things like that. Last night I was watching the news. Excuse me. I was watching the news, and it was kind of almost like a hit piece on the new state elected SBOEs, and that they are total right wing MAGA people who are trying to push their Christian indoctrination on people. They're pushing for more charter schools. They specifically mentioned LJ Francis was pushing for more charter schools. I didn't catch the name of the woman one of the other women that won, newly won, and they cut her microphone off at one of the school board meetings that she was at. They called her an extremist. It was this little Asian lady reporter who probably doesn't look like she's even 30 years old. Why do you think that this target is happening, and how can we stop it? How can we continue to lift and edify these voices? Because as we've talked about multiple times, school board is one of the most important places that we need to have good, strong conservatives. Ladies?
For sure. I mean, I think we found the one blessing that came out of COVID and Zoom schools is that parents found out what their children were learning. And you've angered no one until you've angered a mother. And I think mothers probably are the best defender of their children because, I mean, they are the nurturers of the family in most cases. And when you see your children coming home with things that disturb them, it's extremely upsetting. And then when you start delving into those things, you think, who put these in? Who allowed them in? And when you look at a lot of school boards, there are a lot of men there, and maybe they always needed some women to step in. Though I think librarians are some of the chief guilty people here, because I think they're the ones that actually let a lot of this stuff go into the schools. I wonder if they read it until I hear one talk, and then I go, yes, they did. They knew what was in there, and they still wanted it out there. But I think they've awoken a lot of women who we need to get behind. I'm a member of a group called Mama Bears. I'm actually a Nana Bear of the group because my kids are grown. So, but when you anger moms, and a lot of dads have finally woken up too, even though they're busy on a different level than a lot of moms. That you get parents involved, and you're going to see a big turnover in what these school boards are made up of. Hopefully, but we need to get behind all. We need to all start going to school board meetings. We have, I think, 11 school districts in Montgomery County. So it's hard to go to all of them, but we need to have somebody representing us going to all of them and reporting back to us so we can know what's going on in these different schools.
No, absolutely. Rachel?
So part of the problem as well is that school boards in Texas are members of TASB, Texas Association of School Boards, which is a taxpayer-funded lobbyist group. And what they do is every year your school board will go to a training that is hosted, and all the curriculum is formed by TASB, and they're indoctrinated. Basically, your school board is being indoctrinated by this organization. And what we need to happen is that schools to lead TASB. There are other trainings available for school board members to receive the training that they need in order to be effective in the position that they were elected to. But we've got to get them out of these indoctrination centers, just like with Texas Association of Counties. They're training our county commissioners, clerks, all of that. It's all a racket where they shape and mold these people's thinking to fit the agenda that they want to push.
No, you're absolutely right. And Miss Patty, you had made the statement that you said you kind of wondered if they even knew what they were putting in these libraries until you've spoken to some of these, speaking of the librarians. And I think on some of them, yes. I think in the younger ones, for sure, absolutely. But I think that there's a lot of librarians that are probably my parents' age, or even to an extent my age and older, that they wanted to just trust the system because that's what they've been in, for lack of better terms, indoctrinated to do. Because they've always had their best interest at heart. Wink, wink. And now they're finding, wait a second, I didn't know that I approved that book to come into the library. I think there are still some good librarians who are just trusting the National Library Association suggested reading list, and just blanketly put that in there. You don't have the level of readers, I don't think, that you used to, in terms of, like, I remember my mom used to vet books for a library. And so she would go through, it was our church library, but even still, like, they would have to go through, because even some of the books that they would be receiving in the guise of Christian books were not books that should be in a church library. So they went through, and even though they would get a whole box full, like her and 3 or 4 other ladies would go through these books. And my mom, I always tease, my mom can read War and Peace in an afternoon without even trying, and then still give you a full book report on it later, because she's an avid reader. She always has been. So, people have those gifts, and those are the type of people that should be in these vetting processes for books that come into schools. Yesterday, a play date with one of the little girls from his class, and her mom is an online school teacher, for the TOPS program, which is when they're at Huntsville. It's the K that you see the commercials for the K through 12 online schooling, and so she was one of those teachers, and so she was naturally asking what I do and all that kind of stuff. So I was explaining her to in a nutshell everything that we do. But I said, one of the big things that I'm the sword that I will always fall on right now, well, forever, honestly, but the one that's really kind of burning the most is the books that are being put in schools and this LGBTQ plus agenda that's being shoved down our children's throat. And she was kind of horrified at the stuff that I was telling her. And she said, you would think that we would hear more about this as a teacher. The school that even though she teaches in Laredo, the school that she works for is based out of Huntsville. And so, there's so many teachers, because the teachers get wrapped up in what's going on in their school or in their classroom or on their grade level, because the new concept, just like what they did to nurses, is we're just going to bombard them with paperwork and certifications instead of allowing them to do their jobs. So that's what they've done. And so now teachers are they just kind of don't pay attention for the most part to what's going on around them, even within their own profession. And that's not a slam. That's just because they're so swamped. And God help them if they have a family life on top of that. So a lot of what we need to do and what we are doing is educating the educators on what's happening. Now, I'm not saying sit them down for yet another seminar that keeps them after school and away from their families, but making sure that they know what's happening, because they can't prevent what's happening unless they know what's happening either.
True. Back when some of the pornographic material was found in Oak Ridge High School in Montgomery County, my children went to Oak Ridge High School, and when it was found as required reading material, I asked my son, who's the youngest, who is Sandra's age, I said, was this kind of thing going on back when you were in school? And he said, Mom, back then they just marked out the bad parts. And I said, why did you never tell us about that? He says, well, because I just thought it was a normal thing. And it probably would be embarrassing for a young boy to come and tell his mom that they had this stuff in school books. But this was years ago. He now has a 9-year-old daughter, and I said, you need to look at every book she brings in the house. And it may take you a while, but you or your wife, one, needs to sit down and read this book before she finishes it and find out if it's appropriate or not. Because, it's been in there for 20, 30 years. And they just are getting worse and worse and worse. What's going to be in there in 5 years, 10 years? When your kids, Sandra, are in junior high school, what are they going to be subjected to if we don't stop it now?
No, I remember when I was in middle school, I remember having a health class, and my mom was, she was kind of a bulldog back then before it was really even necessary, but she's like, hey, I don't want Sandra, and thankfully that my health teacher for sixth grade was like a 60, 70-year-old PE coach who just loved, basketball. And he was just like, no, we absolutely are not practicing putting condoms on bananas or cucumbers or anything, because I don't even want to discuss that in this classroom. He was still very much of the old school mentality. But nowadays, they have books in the library. We're not talking about putting condoms on bananas anymore. It's explicitly showing these pictures. Now, there's a ruling, and y'all are going to have to forgive me. And of course, since I'm not capable of looking anything up because I'm not driving.
I hope not.
No, of course not. That's against the law. One of the things that there was a Supreme Court case, and this is actually kind of the birthplace of anime, and thankfully, if you will, because of the birthplace of anime, this has now given us to the situation that we're in right now in our schools and in our libraries. So the birthplace of anime in the United States is because of a Supreme Court case that said, we need to be able to put pictures, right, for medical purposes of children's body parts and how they're different. Well, you can't take pictures, and it was also it was in conjunction, I believe, with a child's rape case, and they needed to be able to get the little child to say, "Hey, this is where where they hurt me," essentially. So there was all this kind of stuff that was kind of building up, and they didn't have a way that they could do like you can with an adult and point at the picture and say, "Yeah, this is where it was," or they couldn't, they just couldn't put that in bucks. So they came back and they said, "Well, you know what? You can draw it as long as it doesn't resemble an actual person, right?" So what anime did was they turned around and they took a girl's body, a teenager's body, a teenager's body, and they put these big, huge cartoon, Sailor Moon eyes and all of that other jazz. They put that together, and then they said, "Hey, look at this. We can give that sexual look to a child without it being an actual child." And so that's where this is coming in at. There's a book, and it's not where I can reach it. It's in my book bag in the back there that I have, and it's just one of many that are in our libraries, that are in our schools, that because they're drawings of people, they've got to be some of the most explicit things I've ever seen. And you guys know me; I have a fun background. It takes a lot to make me blush. And I'm sitting there looking at this going, are you freaking kidding me? As an adult who makes it hard, is not somebody who easily blushes to look at this stuff, I can't imagine being a child and seeing this stuff. I won't even I've got an 18-year-old at home and I didn't want him to see this book. How do we change this mentality?
Well, it's starting earlier and earlier in the schools. And I wanted to go back to something that we haven't touched on yet, but that's how many teachers do you think have done a deep dive on SEL, social emotional learning? That's the program that they're using to groom these kids to get them ready for this LGBT, whatever alphabet soup indoctrination. They start to soften them up and teach them tolerance, and you got to go with it. Don't, then you're hateful or a bigot. If your parents don't agree with it, it's okay. We'll hide it from your parents. We'll get you the gender clothing. We'll call you by the opposite gender pronoun. Use your different name. It's they're baking it in earlier and earlier, and I think most teachers, if you ask them about the SEL program in their school, they're going to tell you how wonderful it is and how much it helps the kids to be good citizens. But they don't know what the root and what the end goal of this program is.
No, you're absolutely correct, and I think that in some churches are even implementing it, including in their Christian curriculum. And honestly, just for the nature of the beast, it's like the soft porn version of what is to come for SEL and CRT, because it's like, oh, see, look, it's not that bad. So when you hear SEL, you're not going to think that it's bad. It's okay.
Right.
Come with me, kiddies. I've got candies in my van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And puppies.
My thoughts go back to when we became a throwaway society, back when Roe versus Wade first passed, even though we know where it is now. But when it first passed, to me, we became a throwaway society. People lost their worth, self-worth, and children were worth nothing. They were the first ones we took. I mean, that's what they were doing. They were killing off because they were worth nothing. What a shame. That would be the downfall of civilization. I mean, if everybody had an abortion, the world as we know it would end, because when we die, there'd be nobody to take over. But I look at that and look at the fact that throwaway society, or the notion that we're worthless, is kind of used in this instance when they give kids this information because they're teaching them that their body really isn't worth anything. The way you were born, what God intended for you to be, or who did for you to be, and your belief system is undermined by that because you just the lack of self-worth is not there. And I think that's what they kind of want, is they want young people to think, well, let government decide who you're going to be, who you're going to be with, what you're going to do. And if you have no worth, then you just do it. And it's got to be stopped. I think we would not have near as many people confused about whether they're a boy or girl if all of this stopped.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Miss Patty, I think it's fair to say that you've been around the block once or twice. You dreams thought this stuff would be a possibility.
Never. I mean, there were people when we were in high school that were confused. I don't know how many, because back then it was like you don't say anything. It's kind of like in the service back then. It was don't ask, don't tell. And I think we were better off then, because now when people have come out and say they are and they're proud of it, then they just keep pushing and pushing. It's what they do in the bedroom is up to them. But when they push it on young people, especially, or the rest of us, then it's not acceptable anymore.
No, absolutely. And I think that, go ahead, just like motherhood, what?
Motherhood isn't for everyone. Not every female should be a mother, because some people just don't have the makeup that you need to be a good mother. Some people were meant to be alone in the world, not to marry. And maybe that's how we should handle it now, is just let people, stop trying to orient people and give them an excuse for them feeling insecure, instead of helping them feel more secure. Young boys or young girls that are confused about what they are. Why are they confused? Who put it in their mind? How did it get there? Did they see it on a Disney movie? Because now we see where Disney movies have it. It's like subliminal messages blown up on steroids. It's just there to give them that idea.
No, and that's exactly it. And you have to, as parents now, we have to really be guardians. I think even more so than of any other generation. And even, having the older boys versus having the little ones, we're having to see where we have to be a stronger guardian than we were with even the older ones. We're not even talking, a full 10-year span between Austin and Arthur. And yet we're seeing, just in that decade's worth of growth over a period of time. I mean, we have to literally watch every single thing that the little ones are watching, whether it's on Nick Jr., whether it's on Disney Channel, whether it's on PBS. It doesn't matter, because every single bit of it has got some sort of something in it. There's one show, there's one hint, there's one whatever that is just not what little kids should be talking about. And to the point that and I've shared this before, and after this, we'll take a quick commercial break. But when I was running for Congress, I think the first time, Charlotte was crying or Arthur was crying, one of them, they wanted to watch Blue's Clues. And Austin and Alex were very quick to be like, I don't think that you want them watching Blue's Clues. Oh, we'll put on the old Blue's Clues, but we're not going to put on the new Blue's Clues. And I'm like, why? What are you talking about? And they're like, well, there's an episode where they have a pride parade. And I said, what? Blue's Clues? Are you kidding me? And they said, no, there's actually an episode where it's a pride parade, Mom. You don't know about this? And I was like, no. And so I did. I went and I looked and I sat down and I cried. Like, I remember when the original Blue's Clues came out, it was such a wonderful show. It was so much fun. Like, I used to call my mailman, the mailman who knows where I live, and I'd sing him the mail song. I was a teenager. Yes, it was a weird thing, and I did it, and I'm fine with it. Uh, but, it was just fun. It was lighthearted. It was good stuff. And now I have to be worried that my kid's going to come out, using LGBTQ plus lines from Blue's Clues now, because we have to include everybody. And look, like Miss Patty said, this stuff has been around for a long time. Like, there's always been gay couples. There's always been gay couples who even have adopted or have, cared for a child, or fill in the blank. But I've never in my wildest dreams thought that meant that we had to turn everything into a pride parade. And this is now the verbiage that we have to tell everyone, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. And you can do this. And you know what, you can do this even if everyone else around you is telling you it's a bad idea. You should definitely do what feels good. If that means chopping off your penis or chopping off your boobs, that's okay. You be you. We're going to take a quick commercial break because that's a lot to digest. And when we come back, maybe we'll have some happy news. We'll see what happens. We'll be right back, y'all. And we are back. A huge, huge thank you to our amazing sponsors. Of course, the Montgomery County Tea Party, 10 years of excellence and holding people accountable and keeping this show up and running. So we appreciate you. Of course, Skyline Companies, our dear friend Justin. If you have anything to do, or if you need any work, whether it's mechanical, diesel mechanical specifically, or if it's logistics or anything in between, you definitely want a patriot on your side like Justin. He actually sent me a video earlier of his men. They are out working in knee-high water to get trucks back on the water, back on the road from all of the crazy storms that were just had up in y'all's neck of the, well, I say y'all, up in the Montgomery County, Chambers, Harris County, all that area. So thank you, Justin and the team, for what you guys are doing, and of course for sponsoring our show. TECN.TV. I said it the other day. You guys are like our apartment building, and we appreciate that you allow us to be tenants there. And we have amazing other neighbors and here on TECN.TV. So make sure you're checking out the other shows. Our dear friend Randy Purdom is next. Hey, look who else is here! It's Walter. What are you doing? Hey, you
I
know
want
what
the penthouse. I want the penthouse. Is this apartment on a marina somewhere? Wait,
Maybe.
wait. What are you getting beaver nuggets?
I'm not getting beaver nuggets. I'm actually fighting my urges right now because the brisket here is amazing. It's the second best brisket in Texas. Mine, of course, is number one. It is. You haven't gotten to have my brisket yet.
Are you putting gas in the car?
I am. So if you want to be a helper, you can go to TexasMilitary.com.
What's the price of gasoline?
All right. So those of you who don't know across the country, Buc-ee's is always the cheapest place, and it's $3.09 right now.
Ooh, no, we're up in the 290s right now. But with what happened in Deer Park and through Pasadena and Baytown yesterday, there may actually be some issues there.
I wasn't happy. I actually saw it for $3.20 at one place on my not drive.
Yeah, as long as your hands free and not paying attention, not distracted, it's legal.
I'm never distracted, and I'm always hands free because that's the best way to be.
You're a blonde, and it's best when you're hands on.
In fact, wow, someone just wrote a novel. Oh, it's War and Peace, so it's good stuff. It's War and Peace, so it's good stuff. I wish. I'm not a distracted driver.
I was just checking in. I'm gonna let y'all get back to it. You and the ladies.
Well, we appreciate you, Walter West. I did want to make the statement, though. It looks like I make this effort being the producer of the show. Make it look like it's easy. And you, on the other hand, make it look like it's the most complicated thing on this planet. But I appreciate you learning a new trade. Thank you.
Yeah, no, not only am I learning a new trade, but yeah, it's totally something. Nope. War and Peace does say if you want to fight the pride issue, do it with the definition of pride. According to the gays, it wasn't a choice. They were born that way. Well, if it wasn't a choice and you had no say, then you played no role in it. Hence, there is zero pride. You've done nothing, earned nothing, and are only attaching to this because you have never accomplished anything worthwhile in your entire life. Pride, a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. And you know what? Actually, dude, that's just the definition alone. Pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievement. So I can honestly say that Barack Obama got it right when he said, "You didn't build that." Remember, you didn't build that. You may have cut it off, or you may have added to it, but yeah, what you were born with was not yours.
Wait, what?
Yeah, well, that's what you get for being on the drive. Hey, lady, how are y'all doing today?
We're doing fine.
It's Sandra and the Buc-ee's. Sandra's got no beaver nuggets, and she's got no brisket.
I did not even step foot inside that building, and my hands are shaking a little bit because of it. I feel like I need a safe place right now because I just drove away from my safe place.
Sometimes on our road trips, whenever Sandra's been cut off from Buc-ee's and you have to pull in and get fuel and everything else, sometimes she puts her hands and then she sniffs them and she's like, "I'm not going in."
What was that comedian name that used to do that?
Was it Tina Fey?
Of which?
She's a superstar.
No, it was a woman.
I think it was Tina Fey. It was with her and Will Ferrell.
Tina Fey.
I used to love that skit. I
No,
used
her
to do it
name
all the
isn't
time when I
Tina
was in high
Fey.
school.
It was
It was
Molly
a Tina
Shannon.
Fey.
Oh,
Yes.
Molly
that's right,
Shannon.
Molly Shannon. Yeah. I think what's
Yeah,
disappointing. You know what's sad?
There's a lot
Those
of
used
things
to
for
be
sale.
the
What?
those used to be my favorite things ever. Were those skits, and every single one of them is a raging, man-hating liberal.
But then so is most of Hollywood.
toxic.
They're afraid of a little toxic masculinity. But then you watch their movies or their things or whatever, and then they're all about it. And in their character roles, what happened? We said toxic masculinity, and you had to pop back in here.
So actually, what's funny is if you remember the progression of
No,
allowing
I
gays
was
in
saying
Hollywood.
toxic femininity. They're toxic feminists.
Exactly.
Yeah,
true.
The pink hat ladies. If you'll remember, back in the 50s and 60s, everybody was still trying to get a piece of the rock, and everyone thought he was straight. And what happened later on in life? They slowly brought it all in. They made it funny, so everybody was laughing at it. And slowly through the 70s and 80s, being gay was okay. Until now, if you're not gay, you're not okay. And at one point in time, Hollywood actually had a balance, even though there was this big underscore of holy crap, what's happening, that everybody closed their eyes to. And if you'll notice, those are the only ones that are getting away with anything right now, unless you're sitting in front of Ricky Gervais at one of his last concerts that he performed in Hollywood, which would be the Golden Globes or the Oscars or whatever that was, where he just he burned the place down.
I think it was the Golden Globes. That usually is his place to light the torches.
But he didn't just light the torches. I thought that was funny how he just exposed the hypocrisy. And the saddest part about that whole entire thing, at no point did anyone ever remove him from the stage. They just sat there and grinned and bare it. I mean, I'm surprised he wouldn't kill on his way out the deal, but out the program. But at the same time, I'm going, that should tell you most normal people, and we've seen it on our anti-censorship rallies throughout the nation. Somebody gets up there. They did it to Daniel Miller, who was that Women Fighting for America. They literally ripped him off the stage and removed him from the stage when he was talking about Texas independence. A lady from Florida, of all people, says, "Oh, you can't talk about Texas independence here," and pulls him off halfway through his spill. So. And that was in Laredo, Texas, 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
21.
2021. That's right. It was just this last cycle. So there you have more out-of-staters from Florida coming in telling Texans how they need to think.
Well, in fairness to Florida, don't put that beast off on Florida, because Florida is trying to get their stuff straight.
Well, and she used to be a GOP woman. She was on their SREC is what I believe. So anyway, but bottom line, it didn't align with her establishment thoughts. And, and then of course you join the Grifticon, and where's she now? Oh, she's singing the praises of whoever's going to be her Republican Jesus. So anyway, ladies, I will, some of y'all I'm going to be meeting up with here soon. So y'all have yourself a nice day.
Hey, go cook lunch.
Yeah, go cook lunch. Anywho, but you know what? Let's go there for a minute. Let's talk about
like a nice ham sandwich.
Fix me a sandwich and get me a beer, man. See, we can do it too.
That's right.
So, you know what? Let's do that. Let's talk about some of these. Let's be a bit of a mean girl tater club for just a minute. As much as we're all for edifying women, and I always try to find something nice to say, even for people that I absolutely cannot stand. Because let's face it, there are just people in this planet that you cannot stand. It doesn't matter if they're a woman or a man; you just can't stand them. Now, for us women, sometimes it does happen a little bit more frequently that it's a woman and we just want to rip her face off. And then the guys are like, "Oh, you're just being a catty girl." No, it's because they're a stupid twat waffle and they deserve it. But then we have some. You're welcome, Miss Patty. I'm sorry.
I'm learning new language.
But then you have some who are so they're doing it in such an undermined, deceivious, nasty. We're gonna rip everything apart and take everything for ourselves kind of way, and then they give those of us who are literally doing the right thing for the right reasons a bad name because we're doing the right thing and we're exposing them for being who they are. When we've given them opportunity to just do the right thing. Like what? How's a good way to handle this situation, ladies? How do we navigate this road? Because it doesn't just happen in the political world. It happens in the moms groups. It happens in PTAs. It happens in, I mean, everything. Workplaces everywhere. So, what, Miss Patty, give us some knowledge.
Gee, I wish I had that. I mean, we have
Oh,
we
well,
have ladies.
well, this is a
We have
short
ladies
segment.
we have ladies who are very smart, know what they're doing, but and are very vocal and they're patriots, but they don't know how to restrain themselves and present themselves in a way that's more beneficial for what they're working on.
Mhm.
Sometimes they let their emotion uh, rule how they answer things and how they get involved in things rather than thinking it through and looking at the big picture. You know, I have women come to me all the time and go, you know, we need to go do this right now. And I'm going, no, you really need to think about it first. Is that the best way to handle it? And it's like I used to tell people when they would like something would be posted on social media and they would immediately fire back and start this dialogue going on amongst a whole bunch. And see, Rachel's smiling because she probably has seen this thing, but they'll say things and do things on social media. And actually, it would be better if they just left it alone and thought about it a while before they actually responded, because they sometimes make it worse.
Mhm.
And it's not just women. Women, I think, tend to do it probably more than men. Men usually have a lot of different ways to look at things than women do. But we get emotional in it and let our emotions rule how we answer things and when we answer them instead of thinking it through.
You're spot on. A dear friend of mine, Lynn Lasher, says, some of these women are just like bottle rockets. It's just whatever lights.
Sandra is
And,
Did we
frozen.
lose
I
Sandra?
think that's.
Yes, her
Can you hear
FBI
me? I
agent
don't
got
know
on.
what to do with my hands. Everyone started swirling, and then you said y'all couldn't see me. Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so they, anyway, so I think that she gives a really great analogy for that. And I will say that when I decided to run for Congress, like, and you can ask Walter, like, I can't tell you the number of times that I'm just screaming at whatever. And then the second that I have to respond properly, and then I do, but you can't do that. And this is where I think some of the feminists get it wrong. We're not telling you that you can't say what you think or how you feel because that has to be conveyed. But you can't look like a maniac. You can look like a maniac behind closed doors. I look like a psycho sometimes behind closed doors, but not in like I don't know. It just like there's a time and a place for things. You know what I mean? And so you get some of these women who are out there and they just start screaming like banshees and you're spot on. Everything that they had to say was lost in translation because everyone's looking at her going, what kind of psycho crazy, what is she? And you guys have seen me on the show. I will get heated about something, but I like to think that I keep a certain decorum and it comes across in a manner that's very like, this is why we're pissed off, not, oh my God, I'm so pissed off. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference.
True.
Yes, I
Rachel,
think one of
you,
the
on the
biggest
other hand,
turning points for me,
go ahead, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was going to say one of the biggest turning points for me was when I learned that I had to be in control of my emotions and not let my emotions be in control of me, and informing decisions and the strategies that I was going to walk out in my life. And then the other part of that was having boundaries, knowing who are my safe people that I can go to and vent and just kind of work through these things and get, let that emotion come out in the right place in the right time, not allow myself to succumb to that when I'm under pressure.
Right. And that's I remember specifically when I first talked to Walter about running for office when he and I first met. I said, look, here's what I promise. I promise I will not be that person that gets out on the stage and just starts, looking like a crazy psycho woman at people. But the second that the microphone gets turned off and I step off that stage, I'll fall apart if I need to. And I just need to know that you will be one of those people. There was like 5 people that I named, and those were my safe people. Now, some of those people have changed, and some for the better, some, I think always for the better. But, other people have been at different places in their lives. And, that's the cool thing. Like, we sometimes we forget that people come into our lives for a season and for a reason. And it sounds like the perfect Facebook post, doesn't it? But that's true. Proverbs even talks about, there's a season. That's the same for people that are in our lives as well, and that's not a bad thing. Like sometimes it feels like it's a bad thing, losing a loved one, cycling through life cycles. Things change, but the constant is Christ. And I think that if we as women keep that constant, if we keep that focus, and it's something that's hard, I think, especially like I know for you guys, you can feel this on a certain level also. The second that our feet hit the floor, there's 9 million things that have to get done. I mean, instantly. And I don't care if I get up at 7:05 or if I get up at 5:07. Something is happening, and it doesn't. I cannot out wake up the children, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Miss Patty's got more than one kid for sure, so she knows too. Like you can't outwake them. Like you think I'm gonna get up at 5 o'clock. That'll give me time. I can go to bed. I can have my quiet devotion time. I can do my prayer time. I can do this. I can set breakfast for everybody. I can yada yada yada. And guess what? You wake up at 5 o'clock, and guess who's up at 5:02 because they needed a drink of water or they had to go pee, and now I want to be there, and now I want to do this, and hey mom, I forgot I had to do this homework project, or fill in the blank. I mean, it never ends. And so I appreciate women who have their life together, and I wish I could be you, but I'm not, and that's okay because I I'm a what's the crunchy mom term? I'm a chaos coordinator, and I do it well because you have to. But you have to have that time though. Also, like I tell everybody, my car time is my quiet time. Like I love being in the car. I try to never be on my phone. The radio is hardly ever on in my car anymore. I don't know what music sounds like for the most part. It's the time that I just get to be still, and so, and now that Charlotte is the master of the iPad, that time is less these days. But I'm okay with that also because as a mother, as a nurturer, we pour into people. We have to. That's who we are. We have to pour in, and so we have to find those little ways that we can get poured into also. Because if not, we'll turn into that crazy psycho person. And on a deeper level, I feel bad for people like them who feel like they have to um, belittle other women, that they have to go out and create fake drama so that they can feel like they're at the top of some crap pile. And when these women who they're the queen of the crap pile because they tore down every other woman to get to where they were at, or they manipulated every other woman to get where they were at, what is their hurt level? Like, what is their love language that nobody's ever dialed into for this person? Like, how were they the little girl that got bullied at school and just grew up and said, I'm going to be the queen, the head VI, whatever. We have to learn to love people where they're at, but we also, like Rachel said, we have to have boundaries, because if not, those awful people will be the ones that take advantage of it.
Rachel, it's your turn.
And for me, as the best, you're always aiming to be honest, but you have to do it in a way where you have grace with the honesty, because you can be brutally honest and it can be brutal. But if you can be honest in a way that tells the truth, but also can encourage and build that person up at the same time and let them know, okay, this is happening, but you don't have to stay there, or I'm just here to listen. You can tell the truth without being a jerk.
Because realistically, nobody ever really wants you to be brutally honest. Right?
Right.
They want you to like hold back something.
Like, just lie to me a little bit. Just a touch.
Yeah. Put some
I
good
always,
points
I
in
always, go ahead.
put some good points in with the bad points.
Exactly. Walter is not good at that at all. And I told him I told him this morning, I said, can you ever just be nice to me just once? And he goes, you wouldn't know what to do if I was nice to you. I would not. That's a fact. I'd probably freak out. I might pass out and have a heart attack, but it would just be nice if you did it once. Walter is only brutally honest, and sometimes it's a curse. Um, but you're right. We have to be, at least tell me my shoes are pretty after you told me how all the ways that I messed up, right? And we have to be that person for somebody. We have to be somebody's sounding board. But in the same breath, we need somebody to also tell us what we're doing right. Like I'm so thankful for the tribe of women that have come around me in the last 4 years. I've honestly never had more women who have poured into me than I have in the last 4 years. And now the crap part is that none of them are in close proximity of any of like we're all over the place. And I still have a couple of consistents that I've known for 20 years or more. Um, which is why it's okay. There's seasons, there's reasons, there's all of that kind of stuff. But because we need somebody to say, you know what, this is where you did fantastic. This is where I really wouldn't have done it that way, but you got your point across. And it's important that we have that girl tribe a little bit. And guys, we're giving you some inside baseball, so take advantage of it, because we need those men in our lives also. Like this. In order to, I had a pastor tell me several years ago, and I loved this. We've been taught, I think, a wrong theology where it's a hierarchy, and that's not how it was meant to work. He said everything was reflective, or should be reflective of God, right? Then you have God at the head, and then you have Jesus and the Holy Spirit. But if you really look, they're kind of a triangle. No matter how you flip it on its side, they all still have their role. They have their part, and they couldn't be without the other. And so the Godhead is like the perfect model of how we should with our lives, right? God is at the head, but then you have Jesus, and then you have the presence of the Holy Spirit, and Jesus is the one who conveyed this and said, hey, you know what? I'm nothing without the Father. I can't do anything without Him. I'm here on His behalf, and the Holy Spirit, I'm giving Him to you, and He's going to be acting on my behalf, and He's a reflection of me, and I'm a reflection of my Father, and the three of us, and then in the beginning there was the Word, and it all works together in a triangle, not a hierarchy, even though God is clearly the head. And so everything in creation is supposed to reflect that model, not of hierarchy, but of harmony. And yet we still misconstrue that. So we need those strong men in our lives. And I guess if all you have is wimpy men around them, then it's your job to make them a strong man. And it sucks. It really does. I've had to be that person where, we have to kind of prod them a little bit, and it is exhausting and it sucks. And, but there's always a role. And we should never diminish somebody who may not have as strong a standing. Find out why they don't. See how we can help edify them. And it takes work and it's exhausting. It's not something that can happen overnight. It's something that takes, in some cases, a life. Oh my! It takes it takes a lifetime. I saw weird stuff on the side of the road. It takes a lifetime, but that's who we are. As women, sometimes we're put in extreme circumstances because that's just who we are. That's how we develop. It's how we can develop others. Um, I don't think that even the man version is that we were taken from the rib of the man, and so then we can blossom. No, we were taken from the rib of the man because that's the way that God designed us. But it was because we're the strength. We're the ones that hold them together. That's my take on it. Like because the ribs holding all the guts, right? Like we have to hold everything together. And I don't know. What do you think, Miss Patty? You've been on this planet longer than me. I'm giving my 38 years of wisdom right now.
I don't want to tell you how many years of wisdom I to me, a woman needs to complete the man. You need to fill the void where he doesn't fill, and I mean, men are supposed to be the spiritual spiritual leader of the household. But if they're not, the woman needs to lift him up so he can be. You see so many young women who don't respect themselves, but they also don't respect their husband and what his talents are. He may be a very talented and gifted person in lots of ways, but if you don't appreciate him, he'll stop doing those things. So same way with women, though, we need to hold each other up, because some women are good in public areas like you are. Some women are behind the scenes people who don't think they have the talents that they actually do, but they don't think they do. But you need to kind of help build them up so that they realize they do have that, and try to give them be the person in their corner to help them do the things that they can do if they really want to. They may be great at doing things politically, but don't like to be a public speaker, don't like to get in front of crowds. I have one person in mind. She's probably watching this, and she does more block walking than any other person. She does an extreme amount of work, but she doesn't feel like she can talk in front of in a public setting because of something that happened when she was younger. But I think she's finding out that she does have a voice, and little by little, I'll keep pushing until she realizes she does have that voice.
What do you have, Rachel? What do you think?
Well, I agree with Miss Patty when it's about people realize what their strengths are, helping also realize what their weaknesses are, and then you can help that person to hone their strengths, but you can also help them overcome their weaknesses and even turn that into a strength. But that's only going to happen if you have surrounded yourself with people who will be with you on that growing process, helping you, guiding you. And I think a lot of that is letting go of your pride and your ego and going to other people, asking them for help, finding mentors that are willing to spend that time with you and teach you the things that they have learned along the way, just like Miss Patty is doing here today. Because young people have a tendency to disregard what older people have to say. And they do a giant disservice to themselves by disregarding what people who have lived a longer life and have more experience, they're missing out, and they don't even know what they don't know.
No, you're spot on. And one of the things that Miss Patty was talking about, she's absolutely right. We as women are meant to be their helpmeet, right? We're supposed to be our guy's helper. That's our role. That's why we're the nurturer. That's why we're the one that's supposed to, we just have these innate gifts that men they just don't have. As much as we may want them to have some of them, they just, it's like. But in that same breath, it's also our role to make sure, especially mothers of sons. I think that I haven't decided yet which one is harder to raise and how and why, and here's why. I've been a boy mom for 18 years. I've been a girl mom for 4 years, even though I did help raise my sisters. With my sons, though, I'm finding that more importantly than anything, it is my duty to teach them, to raise them to be strong men, and especially strong men of the word. And here, we're in a time in society where we focus, we have this independent girl power woman movement and everything, and I'm all for it. Like I'm 100% raising a strong daughter. Not that I have a choice, because she is probably more stubborn than I am, and definitely more opinionated than I am, if you can believe that. And
Wow.
I know, no, it seems weird, right? But for our sons, we have to raise them to be toxic men in the most amazing sense ever, because we've lost that in society. Now it's cool to have man buns and loafers and be you and just sit behind a keyboard. But we've forgotten to teach them to be men of faith. We put a huge focus on teaching our daughters to sit and pray and be still and just this, that, and the third. But we have to do the same thing for our men. We have to do the same thing for our sons. I still, if you've ever worked with a youth group before, and they're good Christian teenage boys, they really are, but you really stop and you look at your ratio, and you see it in society also. Look at your ratio of men versus women who are the ones that are sitting home praying. Look at the ones who are not just sitting home praying, but are being activists for the body of Christ. It's every single time it's more women, it's more women, it's more women. Where are the men? Why aren't they standing up to do their part? I'll tell you why. Because somebody else is going to do it. Somebody else is going to do it. There was an article that somebody had posted recently, and it angered the absolute crap out of me. It really, truly did. And it was talking about how women, essentially it was trying to send women back to the Stone Ages a little bit, especially in terms of the church. And at one point in the article, and it was taking from the original doctrine of some of the Southern Baptist stuff, and I mentioned it a couple weeks ago on the show when I got it, because it burned me up so badly. But at one point it even said, women should not sit around together and talk about this stuff without the influence of a man, because they might get crazy thoughts. And they wouldn't be able to know what's right because they don't have a man to tell them that that's not really what they should be thinking. And I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? And at first I wanted to just laugh it off, but then growing up in the church and watching that hierarchy instead of that working together like it should be, that's exactly what a lot of people think that it should be. But I texted to Walter and John, and I made the statement in the text to them. I said, according to this, the rocks have more of a voice than women do in the church and anywhere else, because we're just supposed to wait for the man to tell us what to do. And I think that when we don't have men to stand up and say, hey, this is the way that things should be, the call for society to say, hey, women, you just need to sit there until some man pops up. We're getting lost in that. Like, there's people who think, oh, well, you know what? If a woman is not being led by a man, then she should just sit down and shut up. Kind of goes back to that sandwich thing again. We have to instill good values in our men, in our boys, and teach them to be the ones to stand up, because society is telling them to sit down. Society is telling them somebody else will take care of it. Better yet, your mom will take care of it for you, so don't even worry about it.
Not happening. And it's
What-
not only because we have
But my thought is that's the reason why biblically families are made up with a mother and a father, and the father should be setting the example for the young men on how to be biblically based young men, strong young men. The mom gives them the soft side of how to be compassionate. And if they don't have a good father figure, I mean, not all of us, I didn't grow up with my dad actually in my house. And I can see where, and I have a brother, and I can see that made a difference in his life, because he didn't know how to be he just didn't turn out to be a man that I'm proud of, because he didn't have, and I think that did hurt him. And his mother spoiled him. And as moms, we tend to spoil our children. As grandmas, it gets even more fun, because you can spoil them a lot. But anyway, I mean, I think that's the reason why you have is that you're supposed to have a good example of each in the house, and how a husband treats his wife and how a wife treats her husband. Is the best example for these young kids when they're growing up.
Now,
I mean, but not
absolutely.
everybody has.
I'm going to be still for a second because it got wonky on me, so I don't know if it was the radio.
One of the things that was hard for me is when my son got to that age where he started to.
Oh man, and your voice cut out there.
When he started to transition away from being a little kid.
Yeah. Having raised a son and a daughter, in my case, I think it was easier to raise the son, mainly because his dad had to do the hard work. But girls are hard because you go through the I hate you mom stage. And it's very painful for mom. So I would say girls are more difficult to raise.
I can honestly say with Charlotte, I go through all of the phases of raising a daughter in one way. I go from you're not even my mom to I hate you to mom, please hold me. Sometimes in 5 minutes. It's very bipolar raising a daughter.
It gets worse when they're in their teenage years, when they say it and they know what it means.
Have you met Charlotte? She knows what that means. No, but you're right. It was definitely the hardest when Alex and Austin started transitioning from being mommy's little boy to being these big, smelly, awkward kids. Because I think they were having I don't know who had a harder time with it. I don't know if they had a harder time with it or if I did. I remember when because Alex and Austin are 4 years apart, when Alex started kind of going through all of his weird preteen, and for boys, at least my boys, it started as soon as they hit about 12. And then Alex finally came out of it about halfway through 17, I think. It's just awkward, and he didn't know what to do with his hands, and he didn't know if he could still be cool with mom and all this other stuff. And I remember when it first started happening, I would be a liar if I told you I didn't cry all the time, and I didn't lose my. I mean, I would lose my cool. Especially when I found out I was pregnant with Arthur. I actually smashed the boys' 3DSs one time, and I picked them up and I threw them down on the ground, and they shattered. Except one of theirs didn't shatter; it kept working. So I got. I mean, I went psycho mom on it. I went and got a hammer and smashed it. Like, lost my crap. Um, but then later, Austin came to me, and I was just frustrated. And he came up and he just snuggled up next to me because, of course, he was still a little bit smaller. And he goes, "Mom, I'm so sorry that Alex has lost." Actual words, "I'm so sorry that Alex has lost his mind. I promise I won't do that to you." And then that didn't last. Like, as soon as he hit his little tweeny age, "Oh my gosh, Mom, you're still not cool," and like all that kind of stuff. But it's a process, and that's a phase, and then they start coming out. I think Austin has come around a little bit faster than Alex did, because he's a mama's boy. But it's not. I don't think it's easy being a guy either, because you do kind of go. I mean, I'm guessing here because clearly I'm not a guy. So these people who do this training.
Someone just censored your conversation.
Yep, her FBI agent is on the job now. She's frozen.
Whatever she said.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I think a lot of the times the dad gets kind of the short end of the stick, if you will, where they get that hard part where they have to teach boys how to be men, how to be tough, how to overcome. That can be easy.
No, it's not. In fact, you go through the years, and I can remember it well, that there was too much testosterone in our house. There were two toxic men. One was just in high school, and the other was grown. And it was like, the battle between the two of them. But you knew then that there was that we had raised a good toxic young man, because he would be a lot like his dad. In fact, he's grown up to be more like his dad than I ever thought he would be. I mean, he's a fine young man, and of course now he has a daughter, and he realizes the things that his dad taught him. He teaches his daughter, not
Right.
quite as much as his dad. Anything his dad could do, his dad taught his son. And so our son has grown up always not being afraid to try to do things that were out of his realm. See, now the ship has landed on top of her car and stolen her and taken her to Roswell.
Sandra's been. She's completely gone. Oh no! Does that mean Walter's going to come back on?
Oh my gosh! How is Sandra coming back? Let's see. Oh, she's trying. Oh, there she. Did the UFO put you back in the car?
Yeah, she's twirling. She's twirling.
It's Sugarland, apparently. I had perfect signal in the middle of nowhere, but in Sugarland, apparently there's no signal.
Well, a lot happened down there yesterday. In fact,
That's
it
true.
took until today we finally found out that our son did get hurt in the tornado. He was outside working. He's a mechanic, and he has all of his stuff at his house. And I don't know if he knew there was a tornado coming, but he was trying to hold on to some of his equipment, and it picked him up off the ground. And when he decided to let it go, he fell to the ground, and apparently he did get hurt. But not badly. He was able to talk to us this morning, but they all are safe. But that's pretty scary. And then of course he had to get his daughter from school, because they were on lockdown at school. And I don't know how she fared with it, but I mean it was a scary situation. We don't normally have tornadoes in our area of Texas.
It's since we've been in Texas for 14 years now, and we've had 3 or 4 tornadoes come through Laredo, or tornadic like winds. They're called streamline winds. And when we had been down there for about 2 years, maybe 3 years, and I'll never forget this. We were at the ball field was when the worst one happened. I was coaching a game and I looked over, or no, Alex was playing, so I wasn't coaching, but I was one of the officials at the ball field still. And I looked over, and the winds just started looking kind of weird. The sky started started changing colors, and I said, we're all okay. We're all okay as long as the sky doesn't turn green. And as soon as I said that, like instantly, the sky turned green. And we watched. I mean, I watched it forming in my rearview mirror as we were rushing home, and getting the kids in the down. At the time, we had a 2-story house, getting them in the downstairs, underneath the stairs, and all that kind of stuff. And it's not stuff that you necessarily know what to do here because it's not taught to you. And Manny grew up in Oklahoma, so of course he knew it well. And then we lived in Chicago for about 3 years, so we learned it well there. And even in Virginia, it's not usually a place that there's a lot of tornadoes. And right before we moved down here, he had just picked the kids up from daycare and he rode alongside of a tornado. He watched the whole thing for about a mile, trying to get away from it. And so it was. The tornadoes are definitely not something that they're never expected, especially during certain times of the year. There is kind of a tornado season and stuff for those in the Midwest, but it seems like as with anything else, things change. I love the people, the climate deniers, quote unquote. No, we've had seasons and we have a history of the climate changing around the globe for a reason. That's the way it's supposed to happen. So I think we're just seeing that general shift of stuff, but it doesn't make it any less scary or any more welcome, for sure.
Anyway, so you may have other internet problems because I don't know how many people are still without power in that area.
I'm not either. When did all of these Torchy's tacos pop up too? What the what? Okay, sorry. It's like the fourth one I passed.
What's that?
Torchy's tacos. They're good, but the Velvet Taco in San Antonio is better.
But who wants to go to San Antonio?
Hey, you know what? I like San Antonio. I just wish they weren't so freaking liberal. They're getting as bad as Austin and San Antonio.
That's the reason why I don't want to necessarily go there. We used to love to go to San Antonio, to go to the Riverwalk. But it's just, I don't know.
But anyway, we're mothers raising children and sons, and Miss Patty, you're spot on. Your kids are my age, and you still. Rachel?
What happened? Now somebody got Rachel.
I said Austin and San Antonio are becoming a conglomerate.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's awful. And honestly, to kind of make this a little bit more full circle, and then we'll take a quick commercial break. This is exactly why we fight. This is why we do what we do, because it is becoming a conglomerate of WTF, and our kids are going to be raised in this generation. And I've said it before, and I say it all the time because I like to poke fun at my parents. But when I called my parents and told them that I was running for Congress back in 2019, they both said, "Wait, what?" And we had the big conversations about it and everything. And I said, "Look, I have to because y'all didn't." And I said, y'all would have been terrible Congress people, just as an FYI, and certainly not public light people. I loved them both dearly, and my dad will probably start laughing because my dad is a musician. But neither one of you could have run for Congress. Y'all don't have, it's just not in your book, and that's okay. But you didn't stand up and fight when we needed you to fight 30 years ago. You just sat by and said, well, I'm an informed voter, so I'm doing the right thing. I remember my parents talking about it with their friends and, on poker nights and whatever, but they didn't, that's where the conversation ended. Like, it didn't do anything else. My mom was super involved on the school level and stuff. Like, she was always at the school board meetings and all that kind of stuff. But there was not that level of activism that their values should have been in the forefront more. You know what I mean? How do you?
They got her again. So, Rachel, it's just you and me again. Oh,
I don't
apparently
know.
it's just
Did we
me.
lose Sandra?
We must have lost Sandra again. I'm surprised.
Yeah. Well, and I think it kind of what Sandra was just hitting on about parents not standing in the gap for so now we find ourselves in the place that we're in now where this hole is so deep. It's so deep. But we have to start digging our way out. We cannot continue on the same path that we've been on. And like Sandra said, that's why we do what we do. That's why we're outspoken. That's why we take the risk, put ourselves out there and put ourselves up for scrutiny because we care and we're passionate about what the future holds for our children and our grandchildren. What's this world going to look like if we don't stand up and fight?
Very true.
No, absolutely. And what we're going to do, we have about 25-ish minutes left of the show. So, Walt, if you're there, can you go ahead and take us into a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back?
It's just us blondes.
Salacious. Stephanic. Scammer. Santos.
Well, I wasn't planning on going into a Santos scandal moment, but it appears that we are. Now, I tried to look super quickly, just since, the video was there, so now I don't have a choice. He is now, okay, so within the last 7 or 8 hours or so, they reported that Kevin McCarthy said, look, he is on committees. We're going to make him do his job while he's here, unless something comes from these investigations, and then we'll go forward. Now, I will say, in fairness, we are guilty until proven innocent in the court of law. The court of public opinion is a completely different beast. We all know that. There is several new developments and scandals in the Santos situation, and I saw them briefly, but not well enough to be able to truly comment on them. But there are new developments that will definitely hit hard and heavy on tomorrow for our Santos moment. So just to let you guys know, we officially now have a Santos moment on Texas Fully Loaded, as you saw by the video. And thankfully, you didn't have to see Walter or John dancing to the Santos moment.
Very true. Yesterday's date was
No.
Seditious. Saucy. Salacious.
I'd much rather look at Rachel than Santos.
I think that Walter's trying to provoke us to dance to the Santos song, and it's not happening. There's no Santos dancing. We are not Brazilian drag queens over here.
Ever. Okay, so where are we going with this segment?
Sandra, I don't know how well this is working out to have Walt as the producer. I don't know. I don't know. It's too much
We
power.
don't have to talk his head. He has too much power. It's
I'm surprised
dangerous.
He probably
my-
eating.
He probably is. You know what? He did that yesterday. John and I are freaking talking, and all of a sudden he disappears and he sits back down because, like, when you're in control, when you have the backboard, you can see everyone's camera, even if they're not on the air. So as long as you're in the waiting room area, I don't know what the guest side can see, but the producer can see everything. So he's over there. He takes himself off the freaking camera or off the big screen. Oh God, no!
Now he's playing music.
You gotta just so he takes himself off the screen,
Walter,
and
you're
then
gonna
he's eating in the background, and then he takes the quart of milk and he starts drinking it, and I'm like, "Are you? You came off the air so that you can eat, and I'm over here starving to death?" Noted. That's fine. Whatever.
And he probably was drinking out of the carton.
He was drinking out of the carton. And, yeah. Men. Gross. Nobody wants your backwash in the milk. Let's have a bowl of cereal. Oh, look, here comes some brisket. What the heck? Okay, sorry.
I don't think we found any good brisket down on the island.
Interesting. You know what? Let's talk about brisket. Let's talk about real woman work.
milk for himself.
Which job?
Us being the grocery shoppers. What in the banana peels is happening with these grocery prices? I bought 2 briskets over the Christmas holiday. I got them both for like $2.75 a pound. So so I've become quite the brisket maker. And so we went to the grocery store and we're at Sam's Club and Manny says, "Hey, why don't you pick up another brisket? Because you did a really good job with it and we can eat on it for a few days." And I said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." I bought those briskets for like $30. No, now they're back up to $60. How could they afford to make them cheap at Christmas time, but not 2 weeks later?
It's a good question. I don't know what's up with them. Do they have eggs back in the store now?
So Sam's Club did not have eggs. We specifically went to Sam's Club to get eggs. And when we were there was no eggs at all except for the liquid eggs, which the boys don't like. And then we went to H-E-B and they were all stupid expensive.
Hey, you went where?
H-E-B.
Where?
Well, first we went to Sam's Club and Sam's Club didn't have any eggs.
And there lies a problem.
We only have 2 grocery stores in Laredo. We have an H-E-B and we have a Walmart.
That's why you need to move.
The real conversation has been about me bringing a huge cooler up here and going grocery shopping at like Kroger and some of the other places, and then bringing it back to Laredo. That's been a real conversation.
Well,
Much like somebody else I know who was asking Walter to do the same thing from Portland.
well, avocados are that cheap up there. He should have brought a few back.
That's a fact. You know what else is really cheap? The ramen noodles. That was a normal price again.
You know, there are several things in my life that I said I'd never eat.
Is ramen noodles one of them?
Yeah, I don't. It'll be a cold day or a hot day, but yeah, it's not on my list.
No, you have to make them fancy. Like you can't just eat them out of the package. No. And don't use the little packet that's in there. That's nothing but MSG and sodium. You have to really you're just using the noodles. And then you make it your own. I'm like I should open like true talk. Alexander and Manny and I have always said we should open a ramen shop because we make amazing ramen. And they have ramen cookbooks now. Like, what the heck? I'm mad that I didn't capitalize on this 20 years ago because I'm telling you, I could have made the world a ramen place.
Back
Okay?
when
Instead of a butter.
back in the late '60s, when Dennis was in the Navy, the Navy decided they'd overpaid us. Okay, so they didn't give us a paycheck that month, and I'm 18 years old. He's out on the ship. I go to the commissary. I could buy two things: Navy issue or Army issue, U.S. issue peanut butter, which is in a can. When you open the can, it's creamy peanut butter at the top and it's peanuts at the bottom and oil. Okay, not a good peanut butter. So it took me years before I'd ever get back to peanut butter. And if you bought hamburger and you brought home a pound of hamburger and cooked it, you'd be lucky if you had a fourth a cup of meat left. So
That's funny because when oh
my God,
naturally peanut butter.
Well, at least
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
at least he didn't pour the milk into the peanut.
Give him a chance. He said he didn't mean to. He did that on purpose. Anyway, when my grandma used to live, granddaddy was in the Navy, and she and granddad's first cousin, they got to be stationed all around the world together. Well, my granddad and his first cousin, and so of course the families all got to be together and whatever. They were the same rate and yada yada yada. Well, they lived overseas. They lived overseas in Turkey and in England, and when they were over there, they said the exact same thing. Like if you got, because of course you only shopped at the commissary, especially when you were overseas. And so when they went to the commissary and they'd get their pound of hamburger meat, it was almost nothing. And so grandma used to make what she called hamburger surprise, and the surprise was if you actually found a hamburger in it.
That was a surprise. Of course, I was better off than when Dennis was on the ship. They used to like have a quota of how many raisins they had to use. They had to have raisins in their mashed potatoes, raisins in everything because they had to use so many raisins. Huh?
That's funny.
Get that iron out of it. So imagine getting a raisin in your mashed potatoes or pancakes.
Well, okay, in a pancake.
Not a. You have to realize these were like from World War II.
Yeah.
In fact, the beef was actually stamped. I mean, I don't know how those young men survived. Anyway,
That's why they were the strongest generation.
Everything that you go through in life prepares you for where you are today.
Absolutely, it does. And I think that we have about 10 more minutes left, ladies, and then I'm getting better. I've always said guys, even when I was a ballet teacher. There was no boys in the room; it was always you guys. Anyway, we have about 10 more minutes left, and you're spot on. Let's kind of bring some of this home a little bit, and I think that one of the things that we forget is that everything that you go through, good, the bad, the ugly, every single thing that you go through is to prepare you for the next step. Nothing happens by chance. Um, Even one of the things that our pastor did a sermon a couple weeks ago, and he was specifically talking about Joseph, and it's kind of funny because Walter made the reference yesterday about Joseph and his coat of many colors. Uh, um, but he was talking about how even when Joseph didn't see it, God was still working. He prepared everything, even when he wasn't doing his part. God was still preparing things, and he didn't plan it that way. But it worked out that he went from being his father's favorite son and his brothers hating him to being over top of all of Egypt. And he never once in his entire wildest dreams planned that to happen. I hope Walter's listening. He didn't plan. He didn't plan for that to happen, but yet God was still doing a thing. God was still preparing him, regardless, to take on that role. And he never wrote down. And even if he did write down his 5-year plan, his 10-year plan, his 50-year plan, whatever it is, that wasn't in it. And yet God still took him to that place and used all of the things that had happened in Joseph's life to get him to that moment. And I think it's fun to see that no matter what's happening, it's not an accident. It's not by happenstance. Even though we use those words even as believers, oh my gosh, like I totally didn't even plan for that to happen, and then it just worked out because God is doing a thing. He's weaving those little fabrics together. Now it's up to us to know what to do with it, right? It's up to us to either take the next step, or are we going to continue to cower and hide? And to teach our children the same thing. Are you going to just wait, or are you going to be proactive in your waiting? And that's exactly it, because I mean, you see it all the time on Facebook. Moses waited 40 years, Noah waited 240 years. All of these things. Even in our waiting, we still have to be proactive. And I think that that's something that we learn along the path and along the way, is to do that. And in that waiting, we're able to be an activist. We're able to start learning why it's important to, or how, not even why it's important, how to fight in this legislative session. And I said that specifically because here in Texas, we only have a couple months of a legislative session that we get to go to Austin and truly fight for whatever it is. And in that waiting period, we get to just be patient. We get to be still. We get to learn. We get to watch. We get to see how the players are playing their games. And then when it comes time around for the session, now we know what to do. Even if it was on accident that we learned all of it. Whatever brought you into this fight. For me, what brought me into the political activism fight is my Manny's paycheck got taken away for several weeks, and nobody else was fighting for it to come back, or for fighting for it to go away, or stay away until the process got fixed, or whatever it was. That's what brought me into this fight. Rachel, what brought you into this fight?
COVID. My county judge, county commissioner started stripping away our constitutional rights. And I said, no, I don't think so. And it's funny what you were just saying, God was laying the groundwork for me to be able to become an activist, to be able to become involved politically. He was laying all of that groundwork with the experience that I had prior to that for me to be able to come be effective and grow and make the connections that I have made. He had a plan all along, and now it's just up to me to be obedient, to follow where it is that he's leading me, even when it wasn't part of my plan or something that I never envisioned myself doing. But I know without a doubt that he has been preparing me for the place that I am in right here, right now, and I'm here on purpose.
Miss Patty?
Well, I wasn't politically active. Dennis was always the one who was writing letters, making phone calls, complaining, until Obama started running for office, and the talk of having socialized health care come in. And we were big watchers of Glenn Beck, and it came to the realization that if we didn't do it, who would? So I said, I may not have the skills, but I want to get involved in making a difference, making a change to stop this from going forward. So a little bit longer than you ladies, but then I've got a lot more years to have prepared for it. And never did I think that I would be doing what I'm doing right now, because I didn't think I was qualified.
No, here. I'm so freaking lately on that part. And that's the beauty of not just relying on ourselves. I mean, if we just relied on ourselves, like, we would. I'll speak for myself. If I was just relying on me, I would not be doing any of this stuff, not even for a second. I think, and I think that that's exactly why God puts people in our paths and situations and circumstances. And, it's exciting to sit down and write out a plan. And you have some people that say, make a plan so that God can laugh at it. I certainly seem to be the victim of that place a lot of times. And then you also have that other half but you have to have a focus and you have to have a drive on where you're going to take it. And I think you have to have a healthy balance of both. But more than either of those things, I think that you just have to have faith. You have to have faith that God is putting you in places, He's putting you in circumstances, and you have to have the willingness to set yourself aside and do what He is calling you to do. And, we pray for strength, we pray for wisdom, we pray to be in God's will, we pray for all of these attributes, but then we don't have the courage to actually do those things. To actually have the strength and the courage to follow His plan and not my plan. And that's exactly what denying yourself and relying on Him is about. Because my plan and His plan, 9 times out of 10, are 2 completely different things. So do we want to rely on ourselves or do we want to rely on Him? And that's what it boils down to. I know that I wouldn't be a quarter of the person that I am if I relied on myself. I'll say it, and forgive me, but I would be a freaking bitch if I relied on myself.
Okay, this is where the little green monster comes back on. Where did he go?
Walter, we will allow you to come back in for the last 2 minutes of the show.
Put down the jug of milk.
And the peanut butter.
No. He's making himself a sandwich, Walt.
He's making himself a sandwich. Keywords. Guys, don't forget tomorrow, while I have a moment, don't forget that tomorrow is the rally against censorship. Dave Roberts and Defiance Press is putting it on. We're super excited. We're going to be there. We're going to have a little booth. We're going to be airing it on our social media platforms. So I'm super excited about that. I don't remember what time it starts, but I saw that Walter had posted it up. It is a BYOB event because originally it was supposed to be at a brewery. And then that didn't pan out, as you guys know. So we're still going to be there. We're going to be super excited. We're going to have a lot of fun. Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be there. There's going to be some other great people that are going to be there. It's a rally against censorship. It's going to be in Conroe at the Lone Star Convention Center. So be there or be square. Your favorite personalities from TFL are going to be there. We're super excited about it. We're even going to get, I think we're going to get the chance to even interview Kyle Rittenhouse. So that's going to be even more exciting. So y'all be paying attention because we're going to be there. So don't be square. And don't forget to come by and say hello, shake our hands, give us a hug, do a little selfie action, and hashtag we the people work, because that's what we're all about here on Texas Fully Loaded. If you want to be a part of the growth and continue to support us, please go to TexasFullyLoaded.com. Click on the hashtag we the people work, and please give from the goodness of your heart, because this work is not free. And I almost had a heart attack when I had to put more gas in the car to do this work. So if you can help us out, that would be very much appreciated. If you'd like to be a sponsor, please also reach out to us. We'd greatly appreciate you. And if you don't want to give online and you actually do see us in real life person, we'll take chags. We don't take firstborns. We all have one, and we're good. We're good on those. But we would love anything that you could do to support our mission. We would greatly appreciate you. Thank you to our amazing ladies panel, Ms. Rachel Heisler in Chambers County, Ms. Patty Tibbs in Tibbs Island, but typically in Montgomery County. We appreciate what you do, how you inspire, and the work that you do for we the people. We truly would not be this awesome state of Texas without you guys. So thank you for what you do. And happy birthday, Texas State Flag, the Lone Star Flag. We appreciate you. We'll see you guys.
And cue the music, Walter.
Yeah, that's right. I heard somebody was just doing their thing. No,
I was going to say, no, he still had me muted.
Still had her muted, that's right. No, I was getting some Mac work done. I was working on my Mac. They know how it rolls. You should see the studio we is building right now. It is 110% just rock solid fun.
I'd much prefer this music to the wobble wobble wobble.
Wiki, that's right. No, ladies, I think y'all did well. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Did y'all's feed go down by chance?
What?
Did y'all's feed go down?
Not the whole feed. Just the Sandra feed. Which is my FBI agent coming after me again.
No, they're parked down the street. Actually, that's the funny part. So.
All right. Well, you have to end us, because we need to be allowed give Randy Purnham some airtime. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
That'll be good.
Also, you have to hit the end button.
No. That's right, folks. Tomorrow, the anti-censorship rally at the Lone Star Convention Center in Conroe, Texas. General admission tickets are free. You still got to get them. You got to be registered. VIP is for the very important personnel and people. So make sure you get them. Come out and celebrate no censorship. Oh, and it is BYOB. So bring your own brew, your own booze, your own beverage, or your own broad.